Hey there, and welcome to Abyssal Painting. Today, I am going to be painting Hisoka from HunterxHunter. This model was designed by Lion Realm Studios. I'll include a link to their Patreon down below in case you're interested in this model or maybe one of the other ones that they designed. I'm not affiliated with them, but I always like to put a link to models that I paint. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into painting this, and I am actually going to start by painting his sticky gum. To start out, after I've already primed everything black, I'm going to take this titanium white acrylic ink and I am going to give the sticky gum a zenithal highlight. And once I am done with that, I'm going to start with a dark hot pink as my base color, and I'm going to thin it down so there is some translucence to it, and I'm going to paint the entirety of the sticky gum. When I am done, I'm going to move over and I'm going to use magenta, and I'm going to spray this from the top down, maybe a 45-degree angle, just so the hot pink is still in the deeper recesses and the shadow areas, creating a bit of contrast. And once I am happy with this, I'm actually going to come in with one more color, and it's going to be pink, which is going to be my brightest color, and I'm going to spray just the uppermost parts of the ridges and the curves that are on the model. Once I am happy with the highlights that I've created here, I'm going to move over and I'm going to use an Army Painter Speed Paint, which is just a very transparent paint. And I'm going to thin it down and I'm going to go and just tie all of these colors together. So using this familiar pink, I'm going to start aggressively moving my airbrush around, and you'll see that I dump paint everywhere. Fortunately for me, only a drop got on the sticky gum part and the rest of it landed down on the base, which I'm going to reprime again later anyways. So lucky break there. But I go ahead and I finish up spraying the entirety of the sticky gum, and you'll see how it ties all of the color together into something that is more uniform, but you still have the shadows, you still have the midtones, and you still have the highlights. And for the final touch, I'm going to take this Liquitex High Gloss varnish, and I'm going to spray this thing, and I'm going to give it a few coats. But the point is, I want it to be really, really shiny and really, really pop and stand out. Once I was done, I went ahead and I re-primed the base, and now I'm going to go ahead and start painting all of this dirt. I'm intentionally keeping the base dark because Hisoka is a really bright and poppy and vibrant character, so I want to keep the base rather muted. So I'm not going to use a lot of colors, I'm not going to make it very bright, just so it kind of more or less blends into the background. So I'm just using a flat brush. I actually enjoy using flat brushes on things like this just because they cover a lot of area a lot quicker. You don't have to deal with brush strokes as much. And they're also really good for using as a dry brush for catching, raised edges that maybe you don't want to go as deep into the recesses as you would with a normal rounded dry brush. So flat brushes are pretty fun. For my final highlight on the top part of the base, I used this light umber, and again, with a flat brush, I went through and just carefully picked out all of the uppermost edges just to give it a little more definition and a little more depth. And when I was done, this is what I was left with. For the final step, I took some glossy black paint and I just went ahead and outlined the bottom trim. All done with that, the base has a couple of little additions, the first of which is a 6-sided die. So I started off with this dark ivory and I painted the entirety of the die before I kicked it up one shade to ivory and just took it over the top and maybe a 45-degree angle just to add a bit of depth. Additionally, there are 4 ace cards that I have to take care of, and they're so tiny that putting some alligator clips on them would create a problem because it would cover up part of the card and make it hard to paint. So what I did was I put some blue tack onto the back of the cards and then stuck them on these skewers. I painted one side. After it dried, I flipped them over and repeated. The fourth one was stuck to the sticky gum, and there was no way I was going to try to airbrush that. I didn't want to mask anything off in this particular case. So I went through, I hand painted, and to expedite the process, I hit it with the blow dryer a couple of times. Now on to actually painting the cards. Again, these are very tiny, so you're going to need your smallest sharpest tipped brush that you can go in and carefully take your time to outline all of the different shapes. And this was a bit of a process, and I was able to show off starting the heart here, but I really couldn't see what I was doing, so I actually ended up doing the rest of the cards off camera, and once I'm done, I'll come in and show the final results for each of them. So there's the Ace of Hearts. Don't mind the bottom corner there, that's in between his fingers, so no one's ever going to see it. There's the Ace of Diamonds. Got the Ace of Spades. And the Ace of Clubs. So to help me paint those, I actually use these little, I don't know what they are, like painter's goggles or glasses. They magnify things. You can find them on Amazon. They're pretty cheap. But also, I started using this little brush here, which has an incredibly sharp tipped point. I think they're used for like when painting fingernails and stuff, but they work really well on models too when you have really fine details to take care of. Very happy to be done with the cards. I went on and started painting all of the symbols on the die. Starting with the black, there is a spider on here, so I just really had to take my time, use the very edge of my brush to go through and pick out all of the little details before then going and filling in the bulk of the body. There is also a number 4 on this spider, so I just kind of painted around it. Again, having a fine tipped small brush can be really helpful there. Then I finished up with the heart and the diamond. When all is said and done, this is what you are left with, and I think it's a really cool addition to the base. Next up, there are 2 dolls that go in front of that die. We have Crollo and we have Gon. So I went ahead and gave them a zenithal highlight as well as Hisoka to have him ready for later. Now when it comes to painting the dolls, these are all the colors that I used, and I went ahead and grouped them per character on my wet palette to make painting them a little more streamlined. Starting off with both of them, I just went ahead and painted the flesh tone for each of them. And then I went ahead and started painting their hair, as well as their little eyeballs. Crollo has his little headband on, so I took my time to go ahead and knock that out first before painting his hair, and just went through, painted it all black before moving on to his outfit and eyes, which are also black, so it makes it pretty easy. Also, you'll notice he has a little tattoo on his forehead, so make sure to paint that as well. Afterwards, I went ahead and outlined all of the white trim that he has on his outfit. It goes around his neck, his pant legs, and his shirt sleeves. Then I went through and added all of his buttons with white and then painted them yellow, and then went ahead and painted his earrings with a silver metallic and then this teal color. And there he is. Pretty cute. When it comes to painting Gon, he's also very simple. He has an entirely green outfit and red trim going around on his shirt. Once all of the trim was done, I painted his shoes black, and he completes the base. So now it is time to paint Hisoka himself, and I'm going to start off with his skin tones. If you want to know how I do my skin, go and check out my Lilu video. I have a step-by-step process there, but for quick reference, magenta over the top, red in the shadows. Now Hisoka has very pale skin, and more specifically it's white because he puts makeup on himself. But I'm not just going to paint him white. Instead, I actually am going to build up his skin tones all the way from the start, and then I will add a final white tint over it to give it more of a lifelike makeup effect. And for his skin tones, because he is naturally very pale, I'm going to use this peach flesh, this warm flesh, and then for the brightest color, the olive flesh. The most important thing when it comes to painting skin tones is making sure you thin your paints. If you go in thick, you're going to undo all of the underpainting that you just spent all that time prepping with. So make sure you thin your paints down and you can see the color coming through. Done with my base color, I go ahead and move up to the mid-tone that I selected, and again, with thin passes, I start building it up until I like what I have. And once I am done with that, I will come in with that olive flesh as my brightest highlight, and I will go ahead and apply that in select areas where I want it. After you're done painting skin, make sure you apply a satin varnish to it to protect all the work you just did. Now I'm going to paint all of his purple bits, starting with his socks, and I'm going to use royal purple as my base and then regular purple as my highlight color. And once I'm done applying that, I'm going to take this Hive Dweller purple, this transparent paint, I'm going to spray it in from the shadows. It's very dark, just to add a little more depth to the shadow areas. And it will make the highlight areas pop a little bit more. Next up, it was time to paint his clothes, and I was starting with this metallic medium paint, hoping that it would look a little whiter than it did. Instead, I gave him some disco pants, and I had to tone that back. So what I did was I added a couple drops of titanium white to that metallic medium, and that gave me the color that I was looking for. And what I wanted was a metallic sheen to this, almost like he had that silky circus performer material or fabric. Now, I had already gone and painted all of the purple on his torso, thinking that I could brush paint on the white, but it did not go down smoothly, it did not go down cleanly, so I came back in with the airbrush and unfortunately had to undo all of the purple work that I had already done. And that is kind of the tale of this model. There are several things that I had to go back and repeat because I wasn't happy with it the first way it came out. And this happens a lot when painting. We'll have ideas about things that we think are going to work or we think they're going to look good, and then we start doing it and applying it and we're like, that really didn't go as well as I thought it would. And the fact of the matter is, it's okay. It's just paint. You can go and repaint it and undo your mistakes. Now, in repainting all of the purple, I used the royal purple on his belly area as well as his neck rings, but in that little chest area, I used dark purple because in the show, it is a different color than the rest of his purple fabric, so I thought a darker purple would work really well here. With the hand painting done for now, I came back in with my airbrush and used regular purple to airbrush in some highlights around his belly there. So I wanted to check and see how my skin tones looked against the outfit, and they look way too dark, especially because they're up against a bright white color like that. So in order to lighten them up even more, I take this blinding light speed paint, which is a bright gray, and I'll take about 5 drops of the speed paint and 1 drop of titanium white, and then I thin it way down, like 10-to-1 with water, and I start applying some very thin coats. And you can see the before and after here between the two arms and the difference that makes. And so when I go ahead and put it back up on the model, I get what I'm looking for. And this is the pale color that I want with him. And you'll notice that you can still see the skin tone color coming through, which again is exactly what I want because he's wearing makeup over his skin, right? Once I was done with that, I went ahead and painted his shoes. I used a gloss black. Again, he's fancy, he's all dolled up, so I'm making sure that he looks the part. All done with the shoes, I go in and I paint all of the symbols on his little vest. They are all black, so it makes it very easy. I go through and I actually just use the side of my brush at times because they are so raised up that it makes it very easy to just kind of catch the edges and get some nice clean lines. All done with those, I'm going to take this warm yellow and I'm going to paint the trim that is on his shoulders, and I'm actually going to use that as well to go in and paint his belt. Now, for another thing that I had to redo, when I was painting his belt, I was trying to brush paint it, and there was still black showing through when I was doing this, and it just did not look good. Like, I got as far as putting the trim on the belt before I realized that it was looking pretty off. So I used some silly putty and I masked everything off really quickly, and then I go on with my airbrush and just kind of smooth everything over and make sure the color is saturated and it's consistent throughout the belt. Now that it looks good, I go back in with some black paint and I do all of the trim work. So that's going to be the top and bottom portions of the belt, and then every single one of these little diamonds. Again, it's really helpful to have a nice sharp tipped brush when you are doing this. And about an eternity later, I have a nice looking yellow belt with black diamonds. For the belt buckle, I'm going to use this glittering loot gold speed paint, and I'm just going to slap it on there. Quick, easy, nothing special here. Next, I'm going to take some red paint and I'm going to paint all of the symbols going down the front of his pants. Starting with the edges, I just carefully go through and line them all out, and then I will fill in the bulk of the symbols. All done with the base and the body, all we have left to do now is the portrait, and I am starting off by blacking out his eyes. By doing this, we're going to give him a bit of an eyeliner effect, which is really necessary here because he has his eyelids dropped with a very sinister look on his face. Blacking them out will give them more definition and help them pop. Once I was done with that, I went through and I edge highlighted where his eyebrows are. He has very narrow and thin eyebrows, and in the process of doing this, unfortunately, I nicked it a little bit with the tip of my brush, so I had to come back in and I put a little bit of IPA on a synthetic brush and came in and gently started kind of rubbing it away to get rid of it because I'd put that satin varnish on earlier. Unfortunately, I was a little too heavy-handed with it, and we'll have to fix that later. So now I come back in with this bone color to paint in the whites of his eyes, just taking my time and then moving on to his actual eyes, which are a yellow color. So I'm going to start off with this burnt orange, and I'm going to go in and just carefully dot where I think each of his irises need to be. Once I'm happy with it, I'll come back in for a second pass and make them a little bit bigger, kind of building them out until I'm happy with the size of them. Now, I want him to have beady eyes because it gives him that, again, very sinister, evil look. So once the orange is all in, I'm going to take this orange yellow color and I'm going to go and fill in the interior of those orange dots that I'd originally made and just kind of leaving that burnt orange color as an outer rim. Done with his irises for now. I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to fix the area under his eyebrow that I had nicked up earlier. And I'm going to use this makeup palette. I'm going to take this bright pink color and I'm going to fill in on his upper eyelid areas. The goal here is twofold. One, I'm trying to mask my mistake, but two, it's also giving his face a little more depth so it's not so one-dimensional. Once I was done with that for the time being, I go in and I paint the little symbols that he has on his face. He has a little pink star and he has a little teal teardrop. So I go through with the smallest brush I have and take my time and just fill them out and build their shapes. So as I'm looking at it, I am just not happy with his eyes or his eyebrows at all. Especially where I have that mistake right there. It just doesn't look good. I can't not see it at this point. So I decide to take the makeup color that I had used to tint all of his skin and I thin it down even more and I just slowly start building it up to try to build in and mask out that area. Once I was happy with it being gone, more or less, I go through and I also start cutting in around his eyebrows, trying to make them a little bit thinner, a little bit sharper, and a little less wonky because there were some jagged edges that I was not happy with. Then I'll go back in with the makeup, blend everything back in until I'm happy with it, which again, I do like having the makeup on him because it just adds to his flamboyant look. Then I looked at the eyeballs again and decided I really wasn't happy with them, and so I start that process over again as well. I figured if I'm already happy with his eyebrows and everything else is looking really good, I might as well make sure that his eyeballs actually look just as good as everything else. So I go through, I black everything out all over again, Make sure it's all nice and even, and then I go back in and I cut in with that bone color to create the whites of his eyes. And it's just the whole process all over again, just taking my time, making sure I have everything where I want it, making sure my lines are straight, things are looking clean. Then I'll come back in with that burnt orange color, I'll build out his iris, and once I'm happy with that, I'll come back in with that yellow orange color, fill it in from the center, work it out until I have a good look, and then from there, I'm going to take a little dot of black and create a pupil in each eye. And now I am pretty happy with what I have. Almost done, it's time to paint his hair, and I'm going to take this dark purple and I'm going to paint it in its entirety. Once I am done with that, I am going to take the magenta that we used earlier on the sticky gum, and I am going to start brushing it in a little bit thick and then also building it up in layers with a little bit of dry brushing, just to make it stand out and to have some nice even blends and transitions between that and the dark purple. Once I'm happy with the look of it, I'm going to come back in and dry brush with the dark hot pink that we used earlier to kind of finalize the sticky gum. I'm going to pick up all the raised edges, and once I'm done, I have something that looks like this, and I am quite pleased. Last but not least, it is time to paint his earrings, and I'm going to use this glittering lute and this gemstone color from the Army Painter Speed Paints, and I am just going to quickly lay down some gold for the chains, and then for the two little hearts, I'm going to use that red gemstone color, paint those on, look at the model, think it looks pretty good, and call it done. And there you have it. That is how I painted Hisoka. Thanks for hanging out and watching the video today. Hopefully you got something out of it. If nothing else, maybe you learned that it's okay to make mistakes because, you know, stuff happens. And when it comes to painting, mistakes are going to happen more often than not. Just keep going, keep practicing, keep trying. You will get better. You'll still make mistakes, but you'll get better at cleaning them up and making them look better at the end of the day. So until next time, later.